Hello, I'm Robert Faust. Welcome to our website. I'd like to tell you the real story behind fulvic acid. Fulvic acid is a fraction of humus. Humus is the end product of the decomposition of organic matter by aerobic bacteria. It's a very complex subject, but fulvic acid happens to be the acid-soluble fraction of humus or humic acids. It has many biological effects. It's pervasive in the environment. It's a necessary substance for optimum plant growth, animal growth, cellular growth. It's a form of soluble organic matter, contains many components. There's no one substance called fulvic acid. Fulvic acid is a fraction of humic acids with an S. So it contains many hundreds of individual compounds. And it's those compounds contained in fulvic acid that have the beneficial effects. Fulvic acid itself is just a broad term, just like saying soup. Soup's a broad term. What kind of soup? What are the ingredients? So a fulvic acid produced in one location by one method is not the same as a fulvic acid produced in another location. In fact, the test procedures are misleading too, because the numbers are going to be different depending on what test method. And I am a member of the Humic Acid Trade Association, and we're trying to standardize those methods, along with the International Humic Substances Society, which I'm also a member of. At the present time, there's about 3 or 4 methods of analysis. But let's go back to ancient China. And that's where Wujinsan comes in. Here's Wujinsan. Wujinsan means black gold medicine in Chinese. It's been mentioned in the literature, the Chinese medical literature, the Chinese compendium of medicine, dating back to the Ming Dynasty, which is in the 1400s, mentions Wujinsan. Wujinsan is also used in modern-day China. It's produced in modern facilities in a hospital in China, and it is used for many, many purposes. In ancient times, according to the Compendium of Chinese Medicine, it's used as an anti-inflammatory. It's also used for female complaints, a range of different conditions. But since then, we've learned a lot more. So have the Chinese. They have a pretty big industry with the humic substances and the production of fulvic acid, Wujinsan, in their medical system. They have a very concentrated form that's injectable. It's used for pain. And they have less concentrated uses as well. Now what we have is a fulvic acid solution in ultra purified water. Water that has been vortexed. And the technique we use is unlike any other technique. We don't use any introduced acids. We use a microbial system. We use fermentation. We use similar equipment that they use in the grape industry. And the result of that is a pure golden colored solution. Fulvic means, in Latin, it's fulvicus, which means a gold or brass color. That's all it means. So for fulvic acid to be fulvic acid, it must be a golden, brassy color like this. Very bright, like a fine wine. And it's made on similar conditions to winemaking. So you have a very stable fulvic acid solution, does not contain minerals. I know you've heard a lot about the need we have for minerals. All right. Now, the problem isn't necessarily the need for minerals. It's the need for fulvic acid in our diet or in our water to increase the uptake of nutrients. In other words, without fulvic acid, which would be in ancient times, we'd have it in our drinking water, we'd have it in our food. You're going to have it in organic foods where compost's been applied. Compost is a source of fulvic acid. And in normal times, let's say natural, back in the day when we relied more on nature, we would have had better uptake of nutrients. All our tests on livestock done by a scientific double-blind replicated testing shows that pigs, for instance, increased their efficiency, what we call feed efficiency. In other words, with the humic substances, fulvic acid, in their diet, they can be about 14% more efficient in utilizing the feed they're given. Okay, so the addition of fulvic acid to the diets of animals has increased the uptake of minerals, nutrients, vitamins, etc. Fulvic acid is soluble organic matter, has a chelating effect. It's the living bridge between a dead plant root or a cell membrane and a living tissue. So it's a mediating substance that helps get minerals into cells. It also has a stimulating effect on cells at the nucleus level, at the level of the mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cells, and increases cell division, cellular activity, and healing, and growth of microorganisms, and a whole range of benefits on the cellular level, including longevity enhancement. We've shown, research from Germany has shown that our products have, in bioassays using an indicator organisms, shows the promise of longevity enhancement. So back to China. Now, Asia's gone one way with medicines, with philosophy of medicine, and in the West as another philosophy of medicine. In the West, we want to treat symptoms. We want to use invasive techniques. If we get cancer, we want to use a poison to try to kill the cancer cells. Whereas in Asia, like Japan, China, Thailand, etc., they're more interested in therapies that increase the body's immune system so that we have a natural, stimulating the natural components that control disease, which are things like T helper cells, white blood cells, stimulation of the body's own immune system to go after invading organisms and cells that have divided in a way that produces a malignancy, let's say. Okay, so once a cell is damaged, it starts to divide abnormally. Now, what we have seen is that the humic substances, fulvic acids particularly, seems to normalize cell division, protects against free radical damage, and damage from other substances that can cause mutations in the cells, causes abnormal reproduction of that cell. There's quite a bit of research worldwide on this subject. A lot of it comes from Eastern Europe, India, China, because they have a different philosophy of medicine, simple as that. There's not much interest in the U.S. because our method of medicine, like I say, is producing a synthetic product that can be patented, that can be very profitable to the seller, and works on the principle of treating a symptom or killing off whatever it is that the problem is. So something like fulvic acid would not be of great interest in the U.S. because, for one thing, you can't patent it, just like any other herbal supplement. These are natural products. The process is complex and expensive, and you cannot control the marketplace. So it's really marketing driven medicine in the U.S. We do have a supplement industry, and a lot of people understand they have to go out and learn on their own about these supplements because we're restricted on what we can say and claims we can make. And essentially, we can't make any claims of healing or any benefit to diagnose or cure any disease or condition. That's has to be stated on supplement labels. And in fact, the opposite is true in most places in the world, but you can go on the internet and do lots of research on fulvic acid, academic research, and really come up with the truth. And this also includes the subject of mushrooms, or medicinal mushrooms that are used in Asia. And we also carry a line of a product called Fauna Mana, which has 8 Asian medicinal mushroom cultures, which are produced in the U.S., by the way. And you can go online and you can see the medical literature from Asia showing the kind of benefits that they get from using some of these mushrooms, especially as an adjunct to or as a replacement for chemotherapy. So nowadays, I believe we just need to do some of our own research because the system is marketing driven, and you're not going to get the best advice based on what's going to work what's going to be the least toxic approach. You're going to get whatever happens to be the drug of choice or the operation of choice based on the medical industry. And so this is why a lot of people are going overseas for medical treatment too. On the other hand, you have a freedom in the U.S. to sell health supplements. It's not very well regulated either. So you have people out there misleading the public, and they'll sell products called fulvic organic minerals, The idea isn't minerals. Our product is free of minerals. You can ask to see our analysis. It's free of heavy metals. It's pure fulvic acid and especially processed water, which is a big part of the effect. But you're constantly told that we're short of minerals. We need more minerals. So here's a product of unknown source that supposedly contains fulvic acid, but it also has all these minerals. They'll claim it has up to 74 minerals. Well, based on the criteria for fulvic acid for medical use in China, there should not be any minerals, trace elements, or other elements present in fulvic acid. Fulvic acid is a chelating substance. You want it free of minerals so that it can act, it can fill its receptor sites, it can chelate the metals out of your body, starting with cadmium and then mercury, lead. It's a potent chelating substance. I used it for years in agriculture to make chelated trace elements. Then we found out that it's used in other parts of the world for chelation of heavy metals from people's bodies, which we found it was quite effective. And that opened up another level of research. And I had quite a bit of cooperation from researchers around the world as a member of the International Humic Substances Society. And I shared information with other scientists and found out about what the Chinese are doing, which just amazed me. I mean, where they've gone with this. But it is a traditional cure in China. And that's why we use the traditional name, so that we can offer a very viable Chinese remedy to the U.S. market. And we are the biggest producers of this kind of product in the U.S. It's not produced in China and imported. It's produced right here in Oregon. We use raw materials from a couple different sources. These are sources of what we call humic acids, or humates, which are geologically concentrated deposits of humus. And we have sources in North Dakota, and it's some of the best we've seen. And we have sources in New Mexico. We're very selective in the products we use because we have to come up with the real thing. Here's the real thing. It's a golden liquid. This is hard. It's impossible to duplicate artificially. Although there are products in the market that use things like citric acid, use tricks, to make a counterfeit fulvic acid, because they can't, they don't have the right technique or the right raw materials. And then you have people that will really, really preach this mineral concept, that we need minerals, very simplistic. We do need minerals, but it so happens that heavy metals are also minerals. And other things that aren't heavy metals, like aluminum, are still highly toxic. So you look at these products that claim minerals, colloidal minerals, fulvic minerals. Yeah, we need minerals, but we don't need 74 minerals because that means that there's toxic elements being ingested as well. And this is the part they don't want you to know about. For instance, the aluminum content. A lot of times these other products that advertise minerals, colloidal minerals, taste a little bit like battery acid, but they contain high levels of aluminum, iron, maybe cadmium, lead, mercury. And the excuse is, well, but it's got the humic acids and that helps protect against the ingestion of these heavy metals. Well, that's not exactly true. Because, like I said, the fulvic acid facilitates the minerals either, through chelation, removing them, or increasing the absorption of minerals, nutrients, etc. So, yes, we need minerals and nutrients. We should get them from plants. We should get them from the garden, from eating right. We need it in an organic form, not a form that's a mineral form from the side of a mountain somewhere. We really don't have the ability to absorb, to get much benefit from that. And then on top of that, it contains heavy metals. And not so heavy metals like aluminum, which are also highly toxic. Our product is essentially free. Other than maybe minute amounts that are below the testing method level of sensitivity. Of course, we live in a natural environment. We've got air, we've got dust, we've got conditions where minerals and humic substances are floating around in the air. So we use specially treated rainwater that's filtered 3 or 4 times, put through vortexes. We found from Russian research that ultra-purified water alone, highly purified, zero detectable minerals, nutrients, etc., has a very positive effect. And you can go to the internet and see some of that information, perhaps. People are worried about radiation nowadays. Well, they think we use rainwater, so there's going to be radiation in the rainwater. No, there's not. Radiation doesn't stick to anything, but radionuclides do. These are little particles of radioactive substances like strontium-90, iodine-135, and all these other isotopes. Okay. Fortunate thing in our process is those isotopes, heavy metals, stick to the humic substance, the black stuff, and then we pull away the gold stuff, the fulvic acid. All the bad stuff, heavy metals, radionuclides, etc., microbes that are negative, viruses, are left behind in the residue, which is a black soil-looking substance, which tends to lock up these minerals and heavy metals. Radionuclide locks them up within the matrix of the humic substances. and it removes them from the food chain. That's why humic substances are used to clean up waste and are used to immobilize radionuclides to prevent, radioactive particles from getting into plants and animals. So it's really the only, along with clay, humic substances are the remediation method of getting rid of radionuclides. And so that's, and then as far as pure fulvic acid too, it'll just, it's a detox big time. It's for chelation effects, pulling apart agricultural chemicals, industrial chemicals that are pervasive in the environment and in our bodies. But it really is kind of simple in other ways. That 90% of the people that take it and get back to us with some feedback say only two things. They feel better and they have more energy. And that's a function of cellular activity and also removing the heavy metals that basically are like lifting a veil. It changes people's lives when they can rid their body of heavy metals like mercury, lead, cadmium, etc. That's generally the effect that everybody's looking for anyways, to feel better and have more energy. So I could go on and on about the other effects. There's so much to this fulvic acid story. It's very complex. It's very fascinating. I can't really give it all right now, but if you go to our websites, we're going to be adding more and more information. If you want to call us and have specific questions, we'd sure like to answer it. But like I said, we cannot claim any benefit as far as healing or diagnosing any disease or condition as per FDA regulations. If we were in China, we would have a different story. But we are not, so I hope you understand that. And we cannot make any recommendations, but we can sure recommend that you do your own research. Find out for yourself. And don't rely on other people or governments, to make decisions for you until you do your own research. And try to find the truth amongst all the really lies, I guess I have to say, or just lack of knowledge that's out there in the marketplace. But I can tell you, I've been in the business for 40-some years, and I've done my homework, and I take the product myself, okay? And it doesn't have any flavor to speak of. It's kind of a refreshing flavor, it doesn't have any specific flavor you can put it has no acidic effect, no acidic taste. It's just kind of a refreshing thing, that your body craves, bottom line. Since we started using water purification plants back in the 19th century, using chlorine, we've oxidized the organic matter, fulvic acid, out of natural drinking water. And using chemical fertilizers, we've done the same thing with the soil. So we really have a diet, the plants anyway, plants have a diet that is deficient in fulvic acid. And we have shown by hydroponic research and plant research that that plants thrive. You see the real genetic potential and the nutrient absorption of fulvic acid is utilized. So I'd say we may be mineral deficient. Plants and animals aren't getting minerals because they're not getting fulvic acid. That's the important thing to remember. And ours is pure, made in the U.S., all U.S. ingredients. So we have a Chinese name because that is the traditional name, Golden Medicine, or Wujin, or Wujin San. So please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions at all. And just remember, fulvic acid for health.